episode 57. This episode is brought to you by The Collective, which is our monthly membership community for ambitious women who want to continue to build their careers whilst raising a family. Now, once you've had a baby, things might change for you. Once you become a mum, you might be thinking differently about your career, and negotiating what you want can be tough. So within this community, we'll help you to figure out where you want to go with your career and how you could get there. So whether you are switching direction, whether you want to build on what you've already developed in your career thus far, whether you want to launch your own business, we are there to support you step by step, providing the tools, the guidance, the coaching, and the community that you need to move boldly towards the career that you want. So if you're interested in joining an awesome group of women as you navigate the highs and lows of your career beyond motherhood, then head over to lightboxcoaching.com/collective-waitlist and get your name on the list so that I can let you know when the doors will be opening again. We would love to have you join us.
When my son was 1 year old, my partner and I decided that he would be a full-time stay-at-home dad and I would earn the money for the family. And I don't know where he found it in himself to trust me with this awesome responsibility. But he did. He believed in me before I even believed in myself.
Hi, you're listening to the Careers Beyond Motherhood podcast with your host, Janine Esbrand. I'm here to help working mums like you to thrive in your careers and in motherhood. I share tips, strategies, and inspirational conversations with awesome women to help reduce the struggle in your juggle.
Time for Say Mummy.
Hello, and welcome to the show. It's great to be back with you again today. Have you ever been in a situation where you wanted to do something and you looked around and you saw that there was someone who was already doing that thing? So it might be a project that you wanted to get involved with, a business that you were thinking about launching, a promotion that you wanted to go for, but you get discouraged because you think, so-and-so's got there before me, or there's so many people already doing it, so I can't do it. Well, I wanted to encourage you with today's episode. So last week I had the amazing Maggie Frank-Chu on the podcast, and she was talking about her journey into email marketing and how she has been developing her business. And this week I have another copywriter on the show who also focuses on email marketing. But what you're going to see and realize is that their journeys are completely different. Their stories are completely different. Who they're working with is very different, but they're doing essentially the same thing and they're both finding success. So I wanted to just encourage you with that, because when I was looking at my scheduling, I realized that I had two guests on back to back that pretty much do the same thing. But then when I listened to their interviews, I realized that their journeys and their stories were so different, and there's such a different angle in terms of what we can learn from each of them. So I'm excited to dive in today when I speak to Tarzan Kay, who is somebody I met on a course that I took very early on in my business. I took a course called B School to learn all about marketing, and she too was on that course, and since then her business has taken off and she's doing amazing things. And she's a mum of two. She is the sole breadwinner for her family. Her partner looks after her children full time and she works in her business full time, and they made that decision based on what made the most sense for their family. And I thought that it is so interesting to dive into that, because that isn't necessarily the traditional way of looking at things. It's normally, if one person is working, it's often the father who goes out and works and the mum stays at home, but their family works differently, and it really does work. So I'm excited to dive in and hear about her, how they make it work, the decisions that they made, and hope they can be of encouragement to some of you who may be looking at doing things that aren't as conventional but would totally work for you and your family. So without further ado, let's jump into my conversation with Tarzan. Hi, Tarzan. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm super excited to interview you. Please, could you tell the audience a bit about you?
Absolutely, I would love to. So I'm Tarzan Kay. I'm a launch strategist and a copywriter. I work with clients who are launching online courses. And of course, I also have my own online courses and training programs that I sell. And I'm also a mother of two. I have a 4-year-old son and a baby who's about to turn 1 in like a month, which happened really, really fast. And let's see, other important facts. I am the sole provider for my family, so that makes child raising a little bit tricky sometimes. But how's that for an intro?
That's awesome. Thank you. There's so much that I want to dive in and speak to you about. So firstly, tell me a bit about what your career looked like before you became a mum. So give us a bit of your background, and then I want to dive in to talk more about what you do now.
Great. Yeah. So before I had kids, I really never did anything interesting with my career. I actually had never had a full-time job. I wouldn't say I never did anything interesting, but I wasn't what anyone would call successful, although I was having a great life. I just, sort of did my own thing. I was at university forever, for 7 years, went to law school, dropped out of law school.
You went to law school? Oh my God, I never knew that.
Oh yeah, for sure I did. Yeah, that was actually a big, important part of my story, because I had prior to that gone to music school and was like, no, like I don't want to build a career around like my creativity. That's too hard. So I'll go to law school. And I went to law school, and much as I did, I feel like I liked the study. I liked studying and I liked what I was learning, but I did feel very strongly that I wasn't with my people. Like it wasn't my tribe. Nobody was using the word tribe back then, but I see now that it wasn't my tribe. So I left after 3 years. And then, during that time, like I taught music, I taught piano and singing. I went to Australia. I worked as a lounge singer. I cleaned hotel rooms. I did like all sorts of different things. And it really so I just, I was a bit of a waif. I worked when I needed to and didn't work if I didn't have to. And I had a good life. But I always struggled financially. Like I definitely had a lot of financial stress, even though I didn't have that many responsibilities. It always was an issue for me, for sure. And then when I was 30, I had my son. And a year later, I decided, so in between dropping out of law school in Australia and lounge singing and all that, I sort of eased into this copywriting thing. And I was kind of freelancing, not seriously. And when my son was 1 year old, my partner and I decided that he would be a full-time stay-at-home dad and I would earn the money for the family. And I don't know where he found it in himself to trust me with this awesome responsibility, but he did. He believed in me before I even believed in myself. And shortly after that, I signed up to B school, and I really which is how we met. Mm-hmm. Started taking my business much, much, much more seriously, and everything sort of grew from there.
Amazing. Can we just talk for a minute about that decision for you to go to work and then for your husband to stay home full time? Because I think, the traditional way of looking at it is that the woman stays home and the man goes out. And I think now a lot of people are looking at the situation and saying, well, what makes more sense? Sometimes it makes more sense for the woman to be the sole provider. But, for a man to say, I'm going to stay at home, other men might look around and say, why would you do that? So did he share with you like some of his reasoning behind it, other than him just believing in you? Did he share with you kind of why he felt like that would be a good idea from his point of view?
Well, the most important thing is that at the end of that year, I was getting really restless and he was feeling more and more like, I just want to hang out with my kid. So in that way, it made the most sense. But to give you some background, during the year after my son was born, he had been working on a business and it was just like cosmically not like the right time. And there were just so many roadblocks and so many like big dramas in this business, and he was super frustrated with it. We were both frustrated, and initially the decision was like, okay, Tarzan's going to work on her business a couple days a week. Like we decided that we would just switch off, but honestly it was less than a month before he was like, no, you should just go and do your thing, because he really did just want to stay and be a dad. And he is really his own breed of dad. Like he's the type of dad that's like super active, like very involved with the kids. Like he's like a lot more energetic than I am. Like I could sit and read a book on a couch for hours. I can sit at my computer and work like steadily from 9:30 to 5:00 every day and like not even move. Like I don't even get food unless he comes up and brings it to me. And he, on the other hand, has like so much energy. He's just full of energy, full of life force energy. And he can keep up with 2 small children and he really loves it. He's just so good at it. Like I think we decided to do that, like sort of out of just sheer like, I don't know, like let's just try something different. Right. But it just clicked for both of us into those roles. We both really clicked with it and loved it like almost right away. So I think that's why we stuck it out.
Yeah, I love that. I think I can totally resonate with some of that in terms of my husband being super, super hands-on with the kids. And he's just really good in the house too. Like he likes tidy, so he's a neat freak. And so he likes everything to have its place. So when I'm home with the kids, I'm like, okay, I'm just with the kids. The house is going to be a mess, but I'm looking after the kids and I'll deal with the mess when they go to sleep. Whereas when he's home with the kids and I come home, I'm like, wow, it's tidy in here. And the kids are here. How did you do that? Like, I can't see how you can do both at the same time, but he manages it. So I'm like, okay, yeah. It's fine. You obviously can handle the house and the kids at the same time, whereas I have to do one or the other.
I don't work on Thursdays. Thursday's my day to hang out with the kids and he does his J thing. And on Thursdays, like we leave the house at 10:00 to go to gymnastics and it looks like a bomb went off. Like when we leave the house, it's like an absolute disaster. There's like a mountain. It's only 10:00. There's a mountain of dishes. Like there's toys all over. The bed's messy. Like who knows what's happening. There's probably like dirty diapers in the bathroom. Like it's an absolute disaster. And each Thursday, I'm reminded, like, wow, this is a really hard job. I don't know how he does it.
Yeah. It's amazing. I love it. I love how you're appreciating it as well. So that's good. Okay. So then you decided you're going to go all in with your business. So tell me a bit about how your business grew. So for the listeners, Tarzan and I met while we were both doing a course called B School, which is run by Marie Folio, and it teaches you all about how to market your business online. And you were doing copywriting when you first joined the course, right? So tell us a bit about how your business has evolved since then.
Yeah, my business is constantly evolving. Like every day, I feel like it evolves a little bit more. I understand my audience a little bit more. It's constantly changing. But back in the B School days, I was a new copywriter and I was largely writing people's websites. B School represented a major shift for me. I'd never invested in my business before. I never had a clear strategy around how I was finding clients. I wasn't taking it seriously. So when I made that investment, making the investment was a really powerful declaration that this is my business and this is what I'm doing now. And I really worked through that program, like every single module, every single lesson. Like I showed up and I did it all. I don't think I've ever invested myself so fully in any program ever. But I did, and it absolutely worked. And initially, a lot of my clients came from B School because they were new entrepreneurs and they needed websites. And very soon after that, I realized that what I really wanted to do was work on emails, and that's like a real superpower of mine, which is interesting because that was only about 6 months into my business. I was in this email copywriting competition and I won. And through that competition, I was like, oh, this is a really marketable skill. And I need to develop this because I can charge for it a lot more for emails than I can for a website because emails are so directly tied to the sale. Like people that have their tech set up, they can literally say like, this email you sent for me made me $10,000, for example. So a big light bulb went off like, okay, I need to write stuff closer to the bottom of the sales funnel so that I can really charge a good fee for it and really show my clients return on investment. So I started to go down that road and taking courses and learning about sales funnels. And very quickly, I started launching my own programs, which I'm so glad I did. 1 year later, I actually promoted B School, which I still do. I'm just, as at the time of recording, I'm just getting ready to go into my B School promotion right now, which is one of my biggest promotions of the year. And I learned right away, like through doing my own launches, like, wow, this is actually the best way to learn how to do this and to be able to serve my clients better. So that was my first launch was B School. 2017, a year after. And then, so I started getting more launch clients. And as my business has evolved, I've gone much further over to the strategy side, because I have found that that is what people need much more. Like, they do need copy, that's for sure. And that's something that I would probably always work with my private clients on. But it doesn't matter if you have a beautiful sales page, if you don't have a very clear strategy dialed in. Also, I see a lot of people trying to duplicate the sort of launches that they see people doing to hundreds of thousands of people. And they're duplicating that style of launch with like 100 people or maybe 1,000 people. And so I'm always trying to educate my clients on like how to do small list launches. And they're very different from a big list launch. Like, a small list launch can be much more personalized. And I also teach my clients like how to create and sell an offer right away, rather than like starting with an online course, building this massive sales funnel. I was just on a call with someone today, and she's got this great idea for a yoga program she's building out, and it's for families. And it sounded really exciting. And right away I was like, this needs to be like, there has to be a high ticket offer to go with this. Because so many entrepreneurs, like the biggest challenge is just like to get the money in the door in the beginning. And oftentimes an online course is not like a get the money in the door right away kind of thing. There's a lot of assets you need to create before you're going to get that thing out there. So that's something I'm often helping them with, is like putting together an offer that they could just sell right away. Whether or not it exists yet, or like they've created all these materials, like, no, let's just create this package and you can start selling it right now.
Yeah, cool. And I just want to clarify. So some of our listeners are people that are building and growing their businesses, but some of them are women who are in corporate. So for those people, can you just explain, like, when you mentioned copywriting, like, what do you mean by that? And just just so that they know what you're talking about, because I'm totally like here, like, yeah,
for sure.
Like, what does she mean by copywriting?
Yeah, sometimes I forget that not everyone does what I do. It's actually a pretty niche market. So copy is basically any words that you're using to sell people something. So you could even think of a Facebook post is sort of copywriting, because if you're trying to get people to take some action, that action might be like, click this link to go read this blog post, or that action might be, click this link to go to my checkout page and buy my product. So all the words on your website, that's copy. Anything you put in an email, that's copy. Just to help differentiate, there is a difference between copy and content. So website content is like blogs or like a podcast. That's content. That's like, if you think about the stuff that you create like all the time, it's ongoing, it's informational, and like people are consuming it on the regular. Copy is usually something that has a specific job to make a person take a specific action right away.
Perfect. I love that summary. So concise, so good. So in your journey in terms of evolving in your business and focusing on what people wanted more of, have you come up against, or I'm sure you have, but can you share kind of some challenges that you faced while you've been growing your business and raising your family at the same time?
So my biggest struggle right now is being present with my family. And I know it's a struggle for me and it's a struggle for my partner, because I'm like, although I only work 4 days a week and I do like a 7 to 8 hour day, I'm thinking about my business and I'm coming up with new strategies and ideas like literally all the time. So I really do need to put practices in place so that when I go home, when I go downstairs, because I work in the upstairs, I'm really fortunate to be able to work from home in a way that actually works for me. For most people, I find it doesn't, because they're trying to like work in the middle of their house in like some random place. I actually have, so my home has a renovated attic and it's beautiful space. It's actually meant to be the master bedroom. So I have a beautiful renovated attic and a beautiful bathroom, and nobody comes up here unless they are coming to see me. Like, there's no reason for kids to be running around my space. So I feel like I'm leaving my office and I'm walking back home.
Right.
So
that's such a great commute, like literally 10
It is a wonderful commute. Yeah. But prior to buying this house, I had an office that was about a 15-minute walk from my home. So I always had this buffer, and I could sort of like, there was more separation between my business and my personal life. And now there is no separation. Like it's actually 13 steps down the stairs. So I need to be really intentional about closing my day. And like sometimes like even just like one of my healer that I work with taught me to just like tap my chest a few times and be like, okay, I'm leaving this. I'm clearing all this now. I'm leaving this behind. It will be here for me tomorrow. And now I'm going downstairs to be present with my family. So, and sometimes I will close the day with a short meditation, like literally 5 minutes. I'm really into breath work right now. So sometimes that really helps ground me and bring me back to the present. Exercising also really helps me be present. So this is like my big challenge. For last year, it was my big challenge, but I didn't work on it at all. And this year I'm like really consciously addressing it and putting some practices in place. So that's my number one challenge for sure.
Yeah, and I love that you mentioned that, because sometimes we can have things that we know we need to work on, and it's like you say it, but you don't actively put things in place. So the fact that, you know, you had it last year, but this year you're saying, okay, but what is the strategy? And that's one of the things I like to work with my clients on, when they're saying like things aren't working or I just feel totally out of balance. It's like, okay, well, let's pick the thing that you want to focus on and let's figure out the plan and let's follow through on the plan, because we can often put loads of plans in place. We have lists, we have things, but it's following through that makes the difference.
Yeah, totally. And what I found with myself, what works for me is to just add one thing at a time. Like in the past, I've struggled because I've tried to like implement, like, oh, I'm going to meditate for an hour a day, and I'm also going to start exercising and I don't know, XYZ, 1 million things. And this year I started with committing to exercising 3 days a week for half an hour before work. And I told my partner about it and he was right on board, of course. It helped me to add that layer of accountability, but I'm on my 5th week now of doing this, and I already feel the shift, and I feel like it's become a habit, and it's really inspired me. Like, okay, great. So I've taken care of that. Like now what else can I add on?
Yeah, I love that. We had a tiny habits coach on the show before. Her name's Catherine Hickman, and she talks about the power of tiny habits. So literally deciding that you're going to do one small thing, but attaching it to something that you already do. So like you were saying, you know, before I start work. So after I leave the house and come upstairs, I'm going to exercise, or even smaller than that, I'm just going to put my running shoes on. And then the next, you add to that, once you consistently do that, okay, now I'm going to run for 5 minutes. Instead of trying to do the whole huge thing, break it down into really small chunks, and then that helps you to be able to move forward.
I love that. You'll have to make sure you link to that episode in the show notes.
Yes, I absolutely will.
Well.
It's so good. I was like, I can do this. This is so doable. So talk to me a bit about how the dynamics have changed for your family now that you are a mother of 2. So I know I had my daughter 18 months ago, and I literally felt like I went from 1 to 50 in terms of the number of children. Like it was such a huge jump for me. So I'd love to hear from you, like how you found that shift.
Yeah, that's so funny. So my mom famously says, my mom had 6 children. She says, 1 child takes all your time, 6 children take all your time. And when I had my 2nd child, I was like, well, that's a bunch of BS. Like, this is way harder.
It's totally way harder. So I don't know how, when you say 6, I'm like, I just don't understand. Like, how do you do it?
I know. It's unreal. When our 2nd child was a surprise, a wonderful surprise baby. We were just planning to have 1. And I was so floored because I was like, well, how is this even going to work? Like, I'm supporting the family. Like, how can I take time off? So one thing that I did prior to that, I worked like right up until maybe the week before my due date. And fortunately, I guess I didn't feel fortunate at the time, but he was a week late. So I had 2 weeks of being off work. But I did a big, actually it was B School last year. This time last year, I was launching B School, and I was like, gee, I really hope this is going to be successful because I really need this to pay for some maternity leave for me. Yeah. So I not only I did that launch, and I pre-recorded everything and prepared everything so that once people, like everyone who signed up through me, the way it works is like, if you want people to purchase B School through you, you have to offer a really amazing bonus package. So this is a program by Marie Forleo that lots of other people promote, and as I am one of them. And if you're going to convince people, you got to like really add some awesome stuff. So I've got all these bonuses and things that they get, special things for signing up with me. So all of that had to be prepared ahead of time, as well as the whole promo. so that I could like relax and just like actually hang out with my baby. So fortunately that promo did do really well. And all of the automated things seem to work. Like I have great support in my business. I have a business manager that I work with, and she's just absolutely incredible. Like I feel like we have a psychic connection. She just always knows what I need and she's always there for me. So I'm a little bit embarrassed to admit this, but I actually only took 2 weeks off email. And for that 2 weeks, she answered my email. And I was just like hanging out with my baby. And by the end of the 2 weeks, she was like, okay, I see you are like dipping into it. Are you like doing this now? And I was like, yeah, okay, I'll do my email. I took over the email, and I don't get a ton of email. Like I'm pretty, we have pretty good systems so that, and anything that I don't need to be doing that's like customer service, like I forward that to Sandra. So I have really good support, and that did allow me to take some time off. I would say I probably took about 2 solid months off. And my partner and I are both at home, of course, with baby Mo. And our older son, he goes to a Montessori school 3 days a week, which is right next to our house, which is absolutely fantastic. We just walk him across the lawn and he's at school. So it was an interesting adjustment. And then I slowly went back to work. And again, that was partly why we bought this house, because we knew that the second baby was coming. And I don't know that I really knew how important this was going to be, but I thought, well, gee, it would be easier to work from home when I have a small baby. Now that I know what I know, I would never have been able to do it in our old house and walking to my office and just forget it. So the office has been really incredible. And I started going back to work like a couple hours a week. And then I started building up little by little. And then my business manager, Sandra, she was like, hey, Tarzan, like you're working a lot. You just had a baby. Like maybe you should slow down. And I think a couple of people, it wasn't just Sandra, someone else just mentioned in passing, like, hey, it looks like you're working a lot. And I was like, oh yeah, like you're right. I did just have a baby. So as much as I could, like I tried to just keep it to a couple hours here and there. I think I started with like 2 mornings a week. And then, so baby Mo was born at the beginning of March. And then by the summertime, like July, August, I was working 2 full days and 2 half days. So I was working a total of 3 days a week. And then come September, I started, my Tarzan's version of full time, which is 4 days a week. And it was a real struggle to do the 2 days and the 2 half days. Like I sometimes, even now on a 4-day work week, like I sometimes feel like I'm working with one hand tied behind my back. And it's tough. And my partner, he's like not interested in becoming wealthy if it means that I'm going to be working like weekends and evenings. He's like, no, like he wants us to hang out and be a family. And I'm so grateful to him for that, because I'm on such a roll with this thing. Like my business is doing so well and I have so many ideas. I'm so excited about it. I just like could work all the time and be thinking about it all the time. So I'm really grateful to him for just pulling me back into the present and making sure I don't miss it. Because I do, I look at my son sometimes and I'm like, oh my gosh, he's so incredible. I hope that like 10 or 20 years from today, like this is what I will remember. Yeah. And it won't be just like, it won't disappear because I was thinking about work so much. So I am really conscious of that. I want to remember this time because it goes really fast.
Yeah, totally. And I think it's really important, the boundary side of things. And I was talking to previous guests about this, the fact that when you build your own business, it can sometimes be harder to set those boundaries because you're all in and you want to do it and you're so excited. And so it's interesting to hear that perspective, because sometimes people that are in corporate or going back to corporate can feel like, if I started my own thing, I would have far more flexibility or I'd have more control over my time. And the answer is yes, you would have more control, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're not going to feel divided still. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're not going to feel like, I'm having to decide right now, do I prioritize the family or do I prioritize work? And you have loads of clients. So being able to have that network around you is really important. Like your partner saying to you, look, you need to be around, and also like your team as well, the importance of having people within your team that are able to say to you, like, you can take some time off, we've got this. So it's really important to have those processes and then systems in place as well. So that's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And I there's some backlash working from home and being an entrepreneur. Of course, there are a lot of responsibilities and you're still divided. But we do say to ourselves, like, all the time, boy, we are just so lucky to live this life. Like, a couple weeks ago, my husband had a vasectomy, and
no more babies. Done.
No more babies. Yeah, we're making it official this time. It was like a little bit last minute because there was a long wait list, and suddenly he could get in and was like, okay, I'm going to do this next Wednesday. And I was like, why? I have a full day client. It was totally fine. Like, I ended up moving that client to another day. I was able to clear my schedule. And even the next day, like, I was able to be home with him. And, I had some friends coming over to sub in and help out because I was actually in the middle of the launch. But I thought to myself many times during that, like, so fortunate to have all this control over my schedule. I can start late in the morning. I can finish work early. Like, if he needs extra support, like, I can do that for him. And I'm actually, last week, he had like some crazy toothache issue. And he was like, okay, like, the dentist is going to see me for an emergency appointment at 3:00. Like, is it okay? And I was like, sure, yeah, I'll just go downstairs and hang with Mo for an hour. Like, no problem. I just work an extra hour at night.
That's awesome. I love that. And I love that, it's that communication as well. Like, even though he's home with the babies all the time, he still has stuff that he has to do, right? So it's communicating back and forth and being open about what's on the agenda. So do you have any tips for anyone who is kind of starting out on this journey of being a working mom and wanting to figure out how they juggle everything? Do you have anything that you would say, do you know what, if someone would have told me this at the beginning, this would have been helpful to know?
Well, what my partner and I have learned is the most important thing is we're on the same page about what we're doing. If we're trying to achieve something, or like we're struggling to, in our life in any area, often the problem is that we haven't had a conversation about it and gotten really honest about what we want and how we're handling the situation. So even like, this is not work related, but a couple of months back, we were actually, even like a year ago, we were trying to sell our car. We had this car and we were like, it's like starting to have car trouble. Like, we should really sell this car. And I didn't want to let it go. Like, it was my first car. I bought it with the proceeds of my first B school launch. And my first car, like, I'm 34, and I guess I bought that car at like 32. My first car ever. And I was like, yeah, okay. Like, I put the ad up on Kijiji, and we weren't getting any bites, like, not working. And we finally sat down and talked about it. And I was like, I realized, like, I just wasn't ready to sell it. I didn't want to. And so we took it down, and a couple months later, like, knowing, okay, pregnant now, like, no, actually, pardon me. This is like over a year later. Now we've got the 2 kids, and we're actually realizing the car is quite small, and Jay is like dreaming of getting a minivan. And I'm like, okay, you know what? Like, I'm ready to release the car. And it probably took like 2 weeks to sell it and find the new car that we wanted. So we've learned that lesson so many times. Even prior to buying this house, we tried to buy a different house as an investment property. Didn't work. We weren't on the same page. So
right.
In terms of career, like, I think I'm learning this lesson again, like with my travel schedule, because I do a fair bit of speaking and traveling to see clients or, go to a mastermind or whatever. And that's like a challenge now too, is like to open up that conversation and make sure like he's okay with it and we're on the same, because I know that it's important for my growth. But if he's not on board with my business growing the way it's growing, like, he's going to feel resentment toward me being away and him being like stuck with the 2 kids and no mom around to help out. Right. So that would be my number one.
Yeah, I love that. Being on the same page and communication is key. I know that for sure. So I love to share with our listeners inspirational quotes or sayings that our guests can share that have helped them or that encourage them. So have you got one that you can share with our listeners?
I feel like I had something. I don't remember what it was, but I will tell you my life's motto. Okay. And this took me a long time to realize that this was my life's motto, but I realized that my mission in life is to let it be easy. And it's funny, like, I feel like I've caught some flack for, like, I don't know, Jay, my partner, sometimes thinks like I'm being lazy or like I'm not working hard enough, or I don't know, like, I really work on like receiving help, receiving like the right messages and tools that I need to just like let it be easy. And as an example, like my son, walking him across the lawn to his Montessori school is like the very definition of what it means to let life be easy. And when we're making choices in life, like even financially, like, you know, we could have bought a bigger house, but I don't want to have a big mortgage payment. I want to let it be easy. Like I like where we're at. So financial decisions, like that's always like, how can we let it be easy? And with our kids, with our health, like so many things, that really informs all the decisions that I make. And there's a difference between letting it be easy and hitting the easy button. Like hitting the easy button is like, well, I'm just going to order Chinese because I feel tired. Letting it be easy is like, well, perhaps we'll just make something simple and I don't know, go to bed early.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That is so awesome. I need to let more things be easy in my life. So if people want to learn more about you, what you do, connect with you, where should we send them?
If they would like to connect with me, I am at tarzankay.com, and the best place to be in my world and get to know me is through email. So I have many beautiful bribes to get you on my email list, but really the magic happens when you're actually there. I write the best emails around, I promise.
Yes, I'm on her list. She does. I love them. I'm like, what's Tarzan saying today? Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a blast having you on the show. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, Janine.
Wasn't that great? I love how Tarzan and her partner are being intentional and also playing to their strengths in the way that they are running their family. It was great to hear about the boundaries that they are putting in place and how, while building a business that is taking off and thriving, they are making sure that they prioritize what's important. And that is what work-life integration is all about. That's what I speak to my clients about. It's about recognizing what's really important to you and your family and ensuring that you put things in place so that your priorities really do stay a priority. So if you want to learn more about Tarzan and the work that she's doing, then head over to the show notes for today's episode at lightboxcoaching.com/episode 57, and you can grab the link to our website and her social media handles. Now, if you are enjoying this podcast and the interviews that we're having with amazing guests, then please do head over and leave us a rating and review. The more people that review the show, the more the show shows up for those that haven't yet heard it, and more people can join the conversation. So take a few moments right now and just leave a rating and review. Use the podcast app that you're using to listen to this, or head over to iTunes or Spotify and you can leave us a rating or review. Okay, that is all from me this week. I will be back again very, very soon with a solo episode where I'll be sharing some of the insights that I've gained recently in various capacities. But until then, look after you and look after your babies. This podcast features music from Ben Sound.